Alright guys, Tactical here back again today with the Day 2 recap for CDL Champs. Unbelievable Day 2 once again. I thought yesterday was crazy, today wasn't quite as crazy, but once again this storyline regarding people getting booted out of these professional matches at the World Championship no less has got to be talked about. We're going to talk about it today, more than likely going to be talking about it tomorrow as well, because this is a topic which is likely going to recur for the entirety of Champs. In yesterday's video, earlier today, we discussed the fact that, well, what are the CDL going to do for the coming days? This has not been an issue which has plagued the entire league so far. We now get to the biggest tournament of the year. Pros have been talking about it as a potential issue for many months now, as we will look at, and all of a sudden it's absolutely plaguing our CDL Champs, you know, grand finals potentially, right? Who knows how the rest of the week goes. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always. Firstly, we have to discuss all this drama that's gone down once again in this London versus Toronto matchup, which is, well, today's version effectively of OGLA versus Los Angeles Guerrillas. Who knows how many more examples of this we are going to have over the coming days. This was the match as it kicked off then, so, well, game number 1, 250, 158 for the Ultra. Pretty standard stuff here on Gunrunner. They have a very, very solid map indeed. Methods and Kleenex especially going off in this one. We go to the game 2 Ramaza, and Royal Ravens look really good on this. Shawnee has typically been a pretty good force on this map. He wasn't really needed so much this time. I mean, Zero, to be honest, had an unbelievable series for the Royal Ravens until he got booted out the game in the game 4. We're going to go on to discuss that. Cammy had a nice 3-piece at the end of this one, but Ravens close it out 6-3. Go to the domination of an Ultra, despite a great start for the Royal Ravens. They were, well, I suppose their woes in domination continue. Ultra take it 176 to 134, and then Hackney Yards hardpoint. This is a map where Zero has an absolutely fantastic start. You have something of a lead, kind of goes back and forth. Ravens, as we'll look at in just a second here when we look at Zero's video exactly explaining what's going on, they have the rotation over to P2. Of course, that's what you want for that rotation, and honestly, it's a reasonable position for London to be in. They can get back into the game, certainly given the small deficit they're in. Who knows if we get a similar finish in this one that we get later in the day in New York Subliners versus the Minnesota Rocker. We will look at that in a second. It finishes 250 to 199. This, of course, once again, does not tell the entire story, as Zero will tell you himself here in a second. So as Waskin then says, 4v5 from the second P2 onwards, like, you know, just absolutely awful. Trey then comes out with, you know, I've been booted again. This is what Kenny said yesterday. Effectively, someone flooding your IP address with a load of noise for your router, kicks you offline. Been around for a number of years. Surprised, frankly, this hasn't been an issue until now. Question really is, who's doing this? How do they have access to these pros' IPs? Is it someone in the pro, like, you know, the TeamSpeak that they use? We'll have a look at some of the options in a couple of minutes' time here. You know, is it even someone like a referee or something, like betting on the games and kicking people off to get the results they want? Like, who knows, right? There's so much possibility for it to be something like that, given we're in an online environment and not in like a bubble on LAN or something like that. Even there has been some discussion earlier today with Adam Apicella saying exactly how much that might cost. I'm sure that will be a discussion for coming days as well. We then get this from Scrap, so, you know, fair play to him. We stay positive and make the losers run. Trey's first time since being in this team, he's lagged out. So, you know, how many times is this now for Scraps where something unfortunate happens? Slasher, of course, chiming in, unacceptable. 2 out of 3 matches so far having a disconnect. There needs to be a change. I don't know why it's taking this long for someone to realize. 3 out of 3 Proto was getting hit in his match as well. So, you know, it's a clean sweep apart from the final match of the day. This is then the video from Trail Player. You know, a minute or so of this on screen for you guys just to get a picture of what's going on. Just keep in mind he's trying to hide the players' actual real names, because in game they play with their actual, you know, username, their actual gamer tags, but in the actual CDL stream they overlay that with their actual gamer tag. So that's why he's trying to hide them, so people can't like actually nick people's IPs directly through that method and then hit them offline.
Hackney Yard is a very like hill-to-hill dominant map, and we have P2 rotation right now, you know, perfect P2 rotation. Got spawns, got everything. That's the score right now. I'm pushed everything out, so I started lagging here. I'll cover that. I started lagging here. You can see that. That's like, yeah, you're fucked basically. So obviously you can see my fight. I die because I can't fucking move, and then I'm literally stuck in this position. I'm trying not to show you. Hold on, let me do that. I'm literally stuck in this position for for 2 minutes. The game's ended by the time I've even fucking done anything, you know. It doesn't even kick me out of the game. I'm literally lagged out like this, and my internet's gone down. I've lagged out everything, so honestly, not much you can do, but you know, it's whatever. Just letting everyone know this is when I exactly lagged out. That's the score as well, so yeah. Don't know what more can be done.
So as a consequence, we get this from Wuskin. He really said to us we weren't allowed to replay because we had over 150 points. I mean, the rule technically is for the replays, which then again is kind of a stupid rule, you could say. You could argue if the game is close, it should just be replayed. In this instance, you can probably argue that. The rule that they announced yesterday was that, well, if you go in and both teams have combined more than 150, then it's not a replay. You know, anything before that, then it's okay. Within a couple of other stipulations. And then Slasher says, wait, our referee said something like, oh man, well, you know, join up, you're holding up the next map. I about jumped through my monitor. So, yeah, clearly the referees maybe not in sync with the professionals on exactly what they expect, I suppose, from the side of competitive integrity. Trey says this, never, ever, ever have I cried as a competitor because of every loss I've had could have been prevented, but today I cried because I just lost a series without having a chance. And, you know, who knows what happens here, right? They were going into Game 5, I think it was on their map pick as well in that Game 5, Search and Destroy. So, you know, just so far from ideal for London. Another hiccup for them, but who knows which other team's just going to affect this tournament. It could happen to anyone, right? And when we get some of these big series, let's say Chicago were to win their first series up against New York that they'll play tomorrow, and then they go up against FaZe, like that's certainly a series that we could see something like this happening. Who knows exactly who's doing it? You know, so many questions right now. And as Looney says, to go back to the London point, that was for an extra $75,000 winning that, well, that's what winning that match guaranteed, and to stay in winners, which is obviously huge for the tournament as a prospect, you know, as a prospect as a whole. If they'd have won that map 4, which they definitely could have done, at Game 5 in, you know, maybe their map pick, of course, then, like, it definitely could have been possible. Once again, teams getting screwed over by this. Maybe Toronto would have won anyway, right? But, you know, it's just not something we want to have to deal with. Honestly, I've had the worst year as a competitor, and to finally feel I'm hitting some good form, as he was in that series, and we'll look at it in a second, and trying to show it off at Champs, and this happens. Octane says it's almost as if months ago the players said this would happen, but as per usual, we're just complaining and do not know what we are talking about. So, you know, Octane and Kenny chiming in on this one. Clearly people and well higher up, and, you know, really the question is, I suppose, which really maybe I haven't talked about too much, is the fact that Infinity Wards have not managed to implement a pause feature that works in the online environment. They made it work on LAN for a little bit, was kind of sketchy on that early season. Online doesn't seem to work. A pause feature would solve pretty much all these issues, or would at least make things a lot better, and a lot better to deal with from a fan perspective, rather than having to watch like half a map play out 4 versus 5. And in theory, the booter can just wait for the match to get past when both teams have 150 points, and then kick everyone off, which is probably what they're doing right now. As Karma says, the way it's going, this clearly is not going to stop happening. And, well, this is some of the discussion on exactly what might be going on. Kenny says, bro, it has to be someone in that TeamSpeak. I'm not calling out pros. I'm talking more so towards randoms, non-pros that get in the pro TeamSpeak. When I first got in the pro TeamSpeak, I was confused at some of the people that were in there. I changed it last night so no one could get IPs, and changed my IP before the match and expect everyone to do the same. But yes, some people need to stop inviting friends to a pro player TeamSpeak. Wait, I don't know then. So Trey's basically saying that he changed his IP before the match, and somehow he still got booted, right? Which is crazy. You know, and if that's the case, what's going on, and what do you even do to eliminate stuff like this if Trey's actually gone to lengths to try and prevent this happening, but he's the one still getting booted off? And well, Kenny, of course, you know, had the situation happen to him yesterday, replying in this one. Then he comes out with this: I don't care about a fine or anything. There is zero chance the tournament can go ahead. You're allowed a $4.6 million tournament to go ahead online with a $100,000 prize, as we talked about, to someone who predicts the bracket right. Absolutely brainless, says Zero. And Looney then follows up with what Slasher had to talk about yesterday when he was saying like pros should take a stand against this, and now Looney does agree, and he says easy to say because I'm not competing, but Austin said this yesterday: players need to take a stand against this stuff that's going on right now. And as Trey then replies to Amelia, the CDL gave me a new account just for Champs. I changed my IP before the match. I honestly do not know what more I could have done in this instance. We then get this as well from Ash replying to Kenny, like I said yesterday, guaranteed a ref is booting people offline with big bets on. Like, who knows, right? This is a possibility that we cannot necessarily discount, and I'm sure the CDL are trying to do investigations into what exactly is going on here, because it's a big deal really from, well, at least the public facing perspective, right? It doesn't look good on Call of Duty, Activision and the CDL right now that this stuff keeps happening, and it's not entertaining to watch, right, when you have to watch a match 4 versus 5. This final series of the day we're just going to talk about was actually a really entertaining one with none of that happening, and we kind of got that like fire back that we, you know, the excitement that that makes Call of Duty esports so special. And, well, this stuff just doesn't show it. And as you can see then, Royal Ravens, I mean, Zero had such a great series, like 81 and 64, even before he lagged out. But yeah, Ultra make it work. I mean, great series, to be honest, across the board from all of these guys. The slang was fantastic. But maybe you can't look into that in too much of a big deal, given that, well, map 4 wasn't even played to its full conclusion. This was the final series of the day then, well, only the second series of the day, that being New York Subliners versus the Minnesota Rocker. Expected New York to come out and win this one. Game 1, they were really clutch, to be honest. 252-28 here on the Ramazza hardpoint. I mean, they basically had like 15 seconds left on P4 to win, and they needed to hold the entire 15 seconds to actually win the game. They just get the final tick in, win at 252-28. If they'd have missed out on some of that time and someone had contested, they didn't have anyone on the rotation, I believe, over to P5, and Rocker probably would have been able to close that out. But yeah, Subliners clutch up. Then game 2, Exceed has a fantastic map here. It says 6-1 the wrong way round, but this should be 6 to the Minnesota Rocker and 1 to the New York Subliners here on Artkov Peak. Get absolutely smoked off the map, but go into the domination, 170-130, and then the map 4, Hackney Yards hardpoint. As I say, this could have been a map that we had in Series 1, right? It could have been a 250-228 or 248, absolute like barn burner, but we do get this kind of spark of what Call of Duty can be. I mean, Rocker made a nice little comeback over at that P5. They lose a little bit of time that maybe they shouldn't have. They go back over to that P1 and attach like pops a 5 streak. Unbelievable clutch factor for the Subliners really to close it out on the P1, 252-48. Comebacks really from either side. Rocker go down to losers. New York move on, and well, certainly their clutch factor in the hardpoints here was very impressive, and I think they are going to prove a tough match for the Chicago Huntsmen when we look at exactly what that matchup looks like tomorrow. This was the series scoreboard then, so thankfully not tainted by any of this booting or anything like that, but as I say, who knows what happens tomorrow. Maybe the culprits responsible for this, whoever it is, they don't want to overdo it maybe, I don't know. But yeah, accuracy, like, the slang really was great apart from temp, to be honest, but he did certainly turn up in this game 4 when it mattered. Slang wasn't so great. I mean, Alex, once again, having been so good on LAN earlier this season, doesn't have the best series here. Is the thumb still bothering him? Is it the online thing that's kind of, lagging over? Exceed had a decent first series on the squad, wasn't good enough to get over the line in this one. Tough opponents though, for sure. These are the matches then that begin tomorrow. So 2 matches, Chicago Huntsmen, winner of New York, that being New York, Mutineers versus the Toronto Ultra. Same time tomorrow, 2 massive series, to be honest. The winner of the Huntsmen New York match will go on to play Atlanta FaZe. The winner of Mutineers versus Toronto will go on to play the Dallas Empire. And then the winner of those series goes to the winners finals. The winner of that goes straight to the grand finals next weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always. Tough situation right now. I do hope the CDL can try and get a handle on this, or at least do something to prevent this happening. Thankfully, it's not happening absolutely every series. We finally got a series at the end of the day where it wasn't, it wasn't having an effect. But, well, are we expecting a similar thing to happen tomorrow? I wouldn't rule it out of the question by any means, especially if Trey's going out of his way to try and resolve this. And still, these issues are arising. Thank you for watching as always. I will see you next time.